what's up or whatever. Let me get the obligatory director and director of photography out of the way, because this is about to be mostly reaction, no notes, thought process going crazy. So the director of this episode is Salli Richardson Whitfield, and the DP is Manuel Billeter. Y'all, this is how you do a penultimate episode. Like, oh my god, oh my god. You know what, let's talk about the elephant in the room first. Let's talk about the elephant in the room first. I promise you, if you're watching this and you're just watching my reviews and you haven't watched the episode, turn it off right now. Turn it off, because spoiler alert. Do we think it was Clay who put the hit out on George? My man said, I'm like a cockroach with 1,000 lives. Now, I wouldn't be comparing myself to a cockroach. Like, I feel like he could have like did something else with that. But Clayton, my dear, how is it anybody else's fault that you were incompetent in doing your job? And when you went out and made an enemy of George for a soft no reason, this could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. Was George a little bit unreasonable in the firing? Yes, I said that before. I'm 10 toes down on that. But you didn't have to go out of your way to work with the ops. And when his son was like, Dad, I know you said that it wasn't no money there, but I went and did some digging. And baby, it's worth tens of millions of dollars, okay? Of dólares. Of doll hairs, okay? And he already put down like a little deposit to secure everything. And so now George is back up. The family not gonna be broke no more because of Larry, okay? Larry has inherited all of his wits from his parents. I think business wise, Larry is like the best of both of his parents, and clearly it paid off in this, to the point where my good doorman got the pow-pows, okay, on behalf of, right? They was like, hey, we got something for George. Oh, I can take it. Bet. Go ahead, take these little bullet balls right quick. Pew, pew. And next thing you know, we get in that final shot, which was beautiful, with the bullet coming out of the barrel in the fire. Like, the cinematography for that final shot of this episode. Ah, chef's kiss. It was magnifique. Oh my god. But let's talk about George this episode, right? And let's talk about how anybody could have put a hit out on him, especially in the business world. But honestly, the way he was talking to Bertha, I'm not saying she did it, but if this was a court of law in 2025, I would be looking at the spouse. Because George is being mean, and it was really like a gang up on her between George and Larry. Larry trying to blame her for why Marian wrote him a 4-page letter and didn't enclose it with a kiss, and then George being over there talking about your ambition is getting out of control. And she told him, bro, we're both ambitious, and I said this last episode, the very thing that you love about her is the thing that you're starting to hate. And I didn't like the line of like your ambition is getting out of control, because it was very much like controlling. Y'all know I'm pro-woman, I'm pro-black. In being woman, we are not meant to be controlled. And I don't care that it's the 19th century. At the end of the day, that's the whole reason they're even doing all of the suffrage meetings and stuff like that, because they have voices. Saying like this is getting out of control, words means things. And he definitely used it as a weapon to hurt her feelings, and was just like, you should have your whole family near you, but you don't. And so while the first part of that sentence, I was like, George, watch yourself. He did have a point in the latter half of the sentence where she allowed her ambition to not ask anybody in her family what they wanted. She was dictating all of their moves for them and telling them that she knew best. And when the outcome kind of like disrupted some things, yes, she should have asked them what they wanted for themselves. But more so, they were telling her what they wanted and she didn't listen. And so now that things are calm, of course she's feeling the fallout. And I already said Bertha's get back is gonna be Gladys going with Hector and actually finding that it's not as bad as it seems, but Gladys being left in the house with the outcome and the bad consequences of the way that she was moving. And shout out to Carrie Coon, because while I knew this was coming for Bertha, I felt bad. I was like, oh my God, like, can somebody please move back into the house? Like, why y'all going to the Union Club? Like, my sis need a hug. And also in this episode, he was like, don't you over here telling me about society and all this other crap, and you can't see what I got going on? Ma'am, you didn't tell her that y'all was going broke. How's she supposed to know what you got going on? You just being a bitch, like, for real, like, you just being snippy and snappy. And so you saying, I got my business, you got yours. So she's bringing you her business, and then you mad that she don't know what's going on with that. You're lucky that you have a child like Larry, because George honestly was getting on my nerves. My baby needs some pampering, okay? He was PMSing like no other, and it was getting really annoying. But on the other side of that, like, Bertha, girl, you gotta lie in that big old empty bed. But everything ain't like super terrible for her. Lena could not contain what Ward McAllister did in that book when he dropped what was it, Society as I Have Seen It, or something like that. And Ward McAllister is like, he kind of works alongside of Lena at like who's welcome in society, who's not, what's tea, what's in vogue, stuff like that. But he aired out real life situations under a very thinly veiled guise of their real lives. And Lena, I feel like Lena do got every right to be upset. And when Ward was trying to fix stuff, he made it worse. Like, that wasn't the move, bro. That wasn't the move. But shout out to Lena, because she could have literally did worse than just kick him out her house. But because of all of this, like, what's that lady name? Oh my God, the biggest gossip. I cannot remember her name. But like she told Lena last time, you're not going to be able to continue to be the head of society if you're not willing to kick your own daughter from society. And so now this is on Lena's front door. She's turning over the end of the season ball to Bertha. And Bertha wants to end shunning divorced women and stuff from these type of events. Like, who cares? They are still full whole people. She agrees that Charlotte should divorce Mr. Dayton if she's not happy. Like, she doesn't believe that Aurora should be shunned from all of these different activities. And so Ward was like, oh, well then, can you make sure like I'm good? And Bertha said, time out. I'm pro-woman and women having choices. Their men are kind of dictating all of the things that's going on in their lives, and so I'm trying to rectify that and right that. But you, sir, with a penis, made a choice and wrote like a 400-page novel shitting on all the women in society. I'm sorry, no boys allowed. Like, it just is what it is. Like, again, beds, shit and piss, lying in it. You're just gonna have to let time do this big one for you, because there's just no other way around it. And while this should be something to celebrate from Bertha, as she's trying to bring it up to her husband and her son, they are like wholly ignoring her. And I was just like, oh my God, like, maybe I deserve, like, she does. But damn, if the acting ain't good and it makes you like hurt a little bit, like, I'm Bertha, girl, I've been on your head. But now I'm like sitting on your head and holding your hand, because like, hush, 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 it'll be over soon. You know, let's just come up with like a really good apology and make sure our actions match in the future. But you know, it's just only gonna be lonely for like a little bit of time, you know, not a long time, but just like give it like 5 more sleeps, you know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of how It is. And I mean, that's just real life. Like, you can't just will the consequences of your actions away and not think that people aren't allowed to have feelings about it or to shut you out for however long that it takes. This is about them and not about you, because when it was about you, you harmed them in the process. So like, it is what it is. But speaking with the Russell family and just families again in general, Gladys Knight, girl, yes. Sarah thought because Bertha left that she could still try to like run things and like push people around. No, girl. And not only from Gladys, but from Hector too. And I love the conversation that Gladys had with Hector, where she was like, you just need to understand your own instincts as well. When I'm riding around and learning the lands, ain't nobody talking about Sarah. They're talking about you. And he had like this cute little blush, and he was like, you know what? I receive everything that you said, and I'm gonna figure out a way to like internalize that. And he also voiced Gladys's concerns that he rolls over to his sister. And so they kind of just had a little bit of conversation about what that dynamic is. And like I said, it was emotionally incestuous, but not necessarily like they were sleeping with each other, but that Sarah really took on like a mother figure role as the older sibling. Her character has such like masculine energy. And I don't say this to say like she is a man, but when you think about firstborn daughters to men of power, they don't know, especially during that time frame, they don't know if their wife is going to push out a boy. Apparently, you know, everybody was just thinking it was the woman's fault that boys weren't born. And so women, the little girls, were in the meetings with their father. They're reading over the papers. They're learning all of these things. And then next thing you know, by the time you're 11 years old, your mama done gave birth to a son, and then they cast you to the side. But because the son is also younger, there's a little bit more spoiling going on. They get a different parent than you received because you were the firstborn. And now they don't have the same responsibilities that you did as the sole person. And as a younger sibling, it doesn't really cross their mind to have any type of responsibility or ownership to the parent's business because their big sister has it. It's not until that boy is becoming like a teenager and stuff where they're like, hey, you need to be thinking about taking over the family and getting some heirs and doing all these things. But now your son is like vastly ill prepared. And that's just not like a time period thing. Like, I'm the oldest and I have 6 siblings, most of them boys. The things that I grew up doing and the responsibility that was laid upon me was not given to any of my brothers whatsoever. The skills that I have physically with my hands and all these other things is not the same with my siblings. And so ask any firstborn daughter, you're groomed to be head of the household without the respect and the title because it belongs to a man. And there are a lot of households even now to this day, husbands with wives who still think of it this way. Like, we're just going to use you to groom your brother to take over, right? And so you kind of get a little bit of that conversation with Hector and Gladys, but am just expanding upon like that dynamic, especially if you're somebody, you don't have siblings, you're not the oldest daughter, or if you're a man, listening to me talk, and you're the younger sibling, you know, just a little bit of an inkling of what firstborn daughters go through. But in that same vein, Bertha has invited Hector and Gladys for the end of the season ball, and Hector's like, hey girl, you remember that London house? Yeah. So I was thinking, like, while we were gone, you could take the opportunity, you know, to head there and like get some fresh air and, you know, do all of these things. And she was like to hang out, like, when y'all coming back? Like, so I can meet y'all here when we get back. And Hector was like, no girl, I think it's high time you get your own house. Breathe a little, live a little, get a man, laugh, smile, you don't have to look after me anymore. And Gladys like, and so Sarah looks at Gladys and she's like, well, and I suppose that you have no qualms with this? And Gladys like, girl, plant some roses, some sunflowers, like date, have these men line up. You deserve. And I screamed for ice cream because finally, the pacing of this show really hones in and packages that conversation between the three of them as something that doesn't feel rushed, right? We already brought it up with Auntie Monica, okay? Gonica, if you will. And she was like, well, Gladys, like you stand in this house. So we've already kind of planted seeds of this was going to come to a head. And them coming back to New York at the end of the season ball, their first appearance as Duke and Duchess, especially coming back to America. And they're coming back to America without Sarah hovering over them, and Hector and Gladys finally on the right page. And even when George wrote them and was like, hey, the check gonna be late, you know, honestly there might not be a check, Gladys has really made an impression on Hector, and he's like, the money does not matter, like I want you here. And I've said this before, yes, you know, it sucked that Gladys couldn't be with Billy and the love and all these other things, but he really wasn't on her level and the potential for where that could be. Billy definitely would have been like there would have been a cap of learning and a cap of what he could offer Gladys in the long run. This is a young woman who was very much like her mother, very much like her father, and there would have been a level of settling with Billy. Gladys is still a young woman of ambition, but in Hector, especially starting from scratch, because I mean they're broke, well, Hector's broke, she now has an opportunity to mold her life and her future in the way that she sees fit with a man who doesn't have a preconceived notion of what that looks like, and so they can kind of build something beautiful together. Billy, under the whole thing of his mom and the legacy of their family, I feel that Gladys kind of would have been placed in a box after some time. And while she was blinded by love, the type of love that she saw between her mother and her father would have been the love that she craved. And that's not something that's rooted in tradition. Sure, Bertha don't have a job or whatever, but Bertha is a powerful woman, and she doesn't glean her power by husband name only. And George was respecting her mind, respecting her ideas, respecting her opinions, regardless of this marital spat right now. She grew up in a household where it was equal. Like, so after a while with Billy, I feel that he would have stifled her in a way where Hector seems to be so enamored and in awe with how much power she has in her femininity, how much power she has in her intelligence, how much power she has with her instincts. And he's looking forward to accessing his own with her. And you can see Gladys just looking at him differently. She's less apprehensive, less fearful, and her eyes are open. Her face is open. Her body is open. And you can just tell that she's like, huh, is this what dating with intention looks like? Dating without the blinders of hormones and feelings. Because love does not keep a relationship. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't. It doesn't. And in a lot of these fast burn relationships, it's all about feelings, all about love. It's all about these things. And though that type of chemistry doesn't think of the long run, it doesn't think of getting to know somebody's strengths, their weaknesses, their dreams, their aspirations, their fears. It doesn't think to do that. And so because she was essentially forced into the situation, she has such a bird's eye view on how she allows herself to get to know Hector in how he allows himself to get to know her as well. So instead of being in the bed all day because I love you so much and oh my God, you're everything that I ever wanted, they take walks, they have conversations, they discuss finances, they discuss the household, they discuss the workers. Just even having a conversation of, if my father cannot pay you, then what does that mean? It's people today that don't want to have a conversation about finances with somebody that they're married with. But because they're kind of in that situation, they're able to have the hard conversations that actually keep relationships together. Because if we can be broke together, if we could survive together, if we know how to react and respond to hardships together and be there and lean on one another, on our strengths and trade those things off, it makes the love that much better. And so it's just really nice to see their love blooming in this episode. But a love that was planted and did not bloom all the way was one Oscar and John Adams. And oh my God, y'all, I ain't gonna even hold you. Between Oscar and Ada, they almost had a thug crying, y'all. They almost had a thug crying. But Oscar, in John's death, is now a homeowner. And Agnes, she been getting on my nerves the last 2 episodes. And I think because she's being so self-absorbed about being pushed from society, she is just really not using common sense and intuition, which we know she possesses. So while she kept acting dumb and aloof when Oscar came back from meeting with John's sister on why he's this angry and why he's having this outburst and why John would leave him a home, Marian and Ada clocking it quick. And right when he was about to say it, Marian just kind of gets in the way and Ada helps back him up. And Agnes is kind of shook, a little teary-eyed. And I like this acting here of Christine Baranski because it's never answered in this episode if it clicked for her or if that emotion was that of a mother who felt she could not reach her own child. Like, you could really take that 2 different ways because she was looking at Marian and looking at Ada like, am I fucking missing something? And then as they kind of calmed everything down and sent him upstairs, there's this look of like recognition on her face, but you just don't know if she recognizes that her son likes men or that she is a terrible mom, right? And I really like that. I hope this gets answered, but with the way episode 7 ended, who knows? Who knows, bro? But I enjoyed that. And, you know, shout out to cousins. Shout out to first cousins because Marian was just so sweet and just so understanding. And I love that she let him know, like, I may not get it, but I would never turn my back on you. I know more about you than you think, even though if I don't understand the feelings that you have. But I understand the love and I understand the grief that you are feeling. And I just want to help you. And she's doing all these things and she's being very understanding to everybody else except the man who proposed to her. Even having a conversation with Ada, and she's talking about where he was and what he did. And it's like, nobody told you what he did. They just said that he was there with some friends. So now you done took this and turned it into your own head as if he participated in something. Again, focus on the lie, girl. And even Ada was like, so you really don't think that you need a face-to-face conversation with him? You could still get his ring back. You could still break it off. But this is being real irrational, girl. And Marian not reading the room. She's like, whatever, I'll just be by myself. Like, it is what it is. I'm tired of getting hurt by men. And it triggers Ada. And Ada's like, that is not something that you want to wish and call upon yourself. It is a lonely life that you will have to mask for the rest of your days with a fake smile, knowing that nobody's ever going to ask you how you really feel because you're pretending to be okay. And it finally clicks with Marian with some self-awareness that like she's being a little bit insensitive. She's not really thinking about the audience that she's complaining to. So then she goes and she's complaining to Peggy, and Peggy like, girl, talk to him. And you know, the whole situation when Mr. Fortune comes up, and Peggy was like, yeah, you only understood after I explained. You need to get an explanation, girl. You need to get that. This makes no sense. It makes no sense. And Larry confronts her about it. And he does apologize for the lie, but he's like, girl, I didn't do anything. She's like, whatever. I'm going to drop the ring off at home. Get out of my class. It's like, all right. All right, girl. But shout out to Jack. Because Jack was like, listen, girl, I didn't tell you the truth because, you know, bro code. But he was there. And we did not go to Delmonico's. Okay? I didn't know how much he told you. But like we was chilling, and then we went home, and she was like, "Wait, you don't have to say anything." And he was like, Jack didn't even know really what was going on for real. So he really didn't have to say anything. But it just seemed like Jack wanted to tell her because he was guilty for lying to her because he considers her family. He was like, "No, we literally went there. He had one drink. We were celebrating his friend's engagement, and we both went home. And now she looking stupid." I bet, girl. I bet. This was just an overreaction. You can have a reaction. This was an overreaction. And like I said, she's taking advice and pleading from everybody except the man that she was in a relationship with. You realize you can still break it off with him because he lied to you. That can still be a deal breaker for you. That can still be a hard no, a raging red flag. Have the conversation. Tell him that and then walk away. That's it. That's it. And I need people to understand and realize, like, sometimes you can still do those things and you can still close that chapter and not open it back up. It's okay to just say, hey, you did this. I will not stand for this. This is something that I will never be able to get past. It will always come up. I will always wonder if you're lying to me. And therefore, I cannot move forward regardless of how much I love you. If it's meant to be in the future, then that's just going to have to be some work that you do by yourself. And I'm still going to live my life. And if we're meant to come back around, we're meant to come back around. But I'm not doing this right now because it's too fresh. And basically, that's all I want from my good sis. Because the rest of this mess, I don't know. It was too much. It was just too much juxtaposed with how caring and understanding that she was with everybody else. It was just like such a stark thing. But I mean, you know, like they say, it's easier to like look into somebody else's house than it is to look into your own. So, you know, if you need to distract yourself with everybody else's business, then do so. But speaking of people that's distracting themselves with people's business, Elizabeth, you bitch. So she's sitting there with Ernestine, which I need the ladies to have a hobby. Ernestine like, girl, you didn't hear? Listen, I ain't no gossip. And you ain't hear this from me, but Peggy allegedly was once married, but I don't know because I think she got pregnant out of wedlock. But when she gave birth, she gave her baby up for adoption, and he ended up dying of scarlet fever a year later, girl. Everybody up in Philadelphia know about it. How didn't you know? I thought you were the all-powerful Elizabeth. That's crazy that they were able to keep this from you. And Elizabeth was like, oh, hell no. I'm about to go get William right now. And when I tell y'all she went and changed her whole outfit and put up on William to eagerly tell him. And she just knew that once she told him, he was going to be like, he was going to pull a Marian, basically. You can tell that she was expecting him to be like, oh my God, thank you, Mom. And then just like break it off. But I like that William was like, first off, why is this any of your business? 1. 2, I'm not going to just take your word from it. I'm going to go find Peggy myself and figure out what's going on. Is he a little hurt that he's hearing this from his mama and all these other things? Yes. But this goes back to like being naive. Like, why wouldn't you think your mom would want to harm you? Your mom is set out to harm you under the guise of looking out for your best interests. She was gleeful to tell you this information, not necessarily because Peggy is somebody who isn't worthy of being married, but to harm you enough into turning your back against her. Because at this point, everything that Peggy is and all of the strengths and stuff that she has, he admires and he loves that about her. So Elizabeth being like, well, what if she's too busy for you? What if she works too hard? What if she does this? And he's like, okay, cool. And so now it's like, oh, I got some tea about her. Let me stab you in the heart with this dagger based on this information. And you'll be so hurt that you won't want to date her anymore. And so you can still look at Elizabeth's face when he left, like, she was like, damn, he's still running to her. Like, it wasn't enough that I told him, like, I'm his mama. This is just some girl he's dating. And this comes after he formally invited her to the end of the season ball. He was like, girl, I know you and Athena be a key, but I don't want you to go with your family. I want you to go on me, girl. I want to show you off. So now he's at her house, and this is going to be a very difficult conversation, but I just feel like I don't know where it can go with William. Because he is a mama's boy. So yeah, I don't know. I don't trust that he's as all in with Peggy as it seems now that he has this information. But on the other hand, I guess my question in the universe, and to y'all listening, oh, never mind. I think the answer is yes. Okay, the question based on 19th century, do you think it is a woman's responsibility in the 19th century? Okay, it is a woman's responsibility. I don't know. I feel like the answer is yes in any century. If it's a woman's responsibility to tell the man she's dating about a past that is clearly a dead past, no puns intended. If said guy she's dating currently never asks. I hope that made sense. Should Peggy have offered this information while dating Mr. Fortune? My thoughts on it in the 19th century and the 21st, the timeline of events, I guess, it would have to be more clear for me in this, because they're dating, right? And yeah, you know, her cousins and everybody's like, oh my God, y'all gonna be walking down the aisle, like, oh my God, like, this is gonna be so cute. And everybody's like, I hope you don't marry this girl or whatever, to William, well, his mom. But it's like, have they been dating long enough for her to want to trust him with the most important piece of her past? That is where that is. Because even when I think about dating now, right, there's certain things you should get out of the way when you're dating people, when you're, you know, talking to people, but not everybody you date is deserving of your past, especially a past like potentially a previous marriage and a dead child. Like, hey William, before we get any further, just want to let you know that I was married before, and you know, everything is cool, and I did have a baby, so yeah, like, I'm not a virgin, but my baby died. But you know, like, that's weird, especially when you don't know how important that person is going to be to you and if you can trust them with that type of information. So yeah, y'all tell me what you think. Should at this point Peggy have divulged this information? I'm gonna say no, mainly because after seeing how his mom is and her aversion to her and all these other things, That's just not something I would have told him. I don't care if I want to still date him and I'm still sussing him out or whatever. I also have to now pay attention to how strong that relationship is with his own mama, because if I tell him, will he tell her, and she already don't like me, will this be weaponized against me? And as we can already see with how Elizabeth found out, it is now weaponized against Peggy. I hope that they can have a mature conversation about this. But I think right now it was none of his business. And I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to stand on that. We've been on like 5 dates or whatever. That's none of your business. That's not, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that. I can tell you, which Peggy has said, you know, there's more to my past that we need to uncover. And even William himself was like, it's no rush. I get it. I understand. And that was when that whole Mr. Fortune thing happened. So she's let him know like, hey, there will be a time that we discuss this, but I just want to continue to get to know you. And that's something that William accepted. So for me, even if he's upset with Peggy about it, I hope that she doesn't take the whole apologetic route. I hope she's like, we're still getting to know each other. And that's not something I just divulge to anybody, especially if I don't know who you are going to be to me. Especially when every time I'm around your mama, she's saying stuff about me. I don't even know if I want to get into the fold of this family, because that is a huge factor. So why would I tell you that? I hope that's the route that she takes. And doesn't be all like, oh my God, William, please, I was going to tell you, but I just didn't know how. And I was afraid that you would look at me as like used goods, as a woman that wasn't worthy of a man, who wasn't worthy of a future in love. Like, I hope we don't do that. Like, I'm over it. With all of the women's rights and the suffrage movement and everything like that, it would be a real character reverse if Peggy takes that route with trying to keep William in her life. A route she needs to take, though, is her foot doing a roundhouse kick upside Elizabeth's head. Okay? Oops, upside the head. I said oops, upside the head. Real quick and fast, in a hurry. I need this walnut hat to roll, okay? I need it to roll. I need her to be hit so hard that the ribbons on the hat that's tied underneath her chin just shreds into pieces. Oh, I know every black person is watching this and is like super triggered. Felicia Rashad, girl, you can act, girl. You can act. You can act. You can act. You can act. I have to remember, this is acting. This is a masterclass. This is a masterclass. Because every time she get on screen, I want to slap her ass so bad. I want to lay some non-prayer hands on one Elizabeth Kirkland. I do. I do. So there's that, guys. Season 3, episode 7, titled Excommunicated. I could not do a regular intro like, hey y'all, for all of the new followers here. The intro goes as follows. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kivanchi. And we are here with another episode of, and then I say the title. So to the new 200 and something subscribers that I got literally from the last Gilded Age episode 6 to now, welcome. I have issues. I embrace them. Everybody's welcome here if you have issues. Air your issues out in the comments. I just ask that we're respectful of one another's opinions, respectful of people's backgrounds and experiences. With age comes experience. With a lack of age and experience comes a lack of knowledge. So again, just, you know, respect perspective in these comments and let's have a good time. Okay, I'm 36 years old. I think the majority of my subscribers are around my age. But if you are like, you know, 34 or younger, we're gonna have a difference in opinion because you haven't lived that part of life yet. Certain things, like I said, even in this recap, time is the only thing that's going to fix a situation. It's the only thing that's going to mature a situation. And so that's my mindset as I interact with people in the comments, and that's all I ask y'all to do with each other in the comments. I am all for disagreements. I'm all for differing of opinions, but at the end of the day, we are talking about fictional TV. So, you know, let's remember that we don't know these people, and these people are just made up names and situations. Well, the Gilded Age is based off like real people, but this ain't no non-fictional show. But anyways, so now that that's out of the way, oh my God, it just takes me back. Did George, honestly, okay, Bertha's getting what she deserves. I think George getting a little bullet ball, what do you call those? Somebody tell me what them little things, I don't want to call it a pellet. It's not a pellet. Yeah, I hope he gets one of those in his shoulder though. I hope he gets one in his shoulder, and then they rush him back home and he's like, Bertha, oh, I saw my life flashing before my eyes, and I didn't want to leave this earth without telling you that I love you, and I'm so sorry for being mean to you and pushing you. Like, I really want him to grovel a little bit. I'm not even gonna hold you. So give him a nice little bullet wound. Give him a nice little bullet wound. Then I want him to be rushed back home across the street because, oh, all right, boom. This is what's gonna happen in the next episode. He gonna get shot in the shoulder. The man who came in there to kill him is gonna get beat up and interrogated by Larry. They're gonna rush George back home so that Bertha can be made aware that her husband got shot and there was an attempt made on his life. And before William can have this conversation with Peggy, or in the middle of this conversation with Peggy, because William is a doctor, he's going to be hearing all the commotion, and Bertha's going to run across the street because she knows that William is there, because all people do is look out their windows and see what's going on in the streets. And then in the middle of that, before we can get to the bottom of Peggy's past, Kirkland's going to have to run over and perform emergency surgery or whatever on George. And that's gonna be part of the episode. I'm calling it. I haven't seen the episode yet. I am not prepared to see this episode. Like, oh my God, what's gonna top an assassination attempt? I can't even imagine. The only thing that can top this is if George does want to see Bertha before he potentially dies. I don't think George is gonna die, but like a divorce between them, or a divorce announcement. I don't know how they can top the penultimate episode, and I am a constant investigator of like where I think themes and plots and stories are gonna go. Even if I don't know like play-by-plays, I have like a 95% track rate on guessing situations, themes, and plots in shows. Like, I'm tooting my horn, but I don't really know where this can go unless Charles Fane dies. Like, please, something. I'm still holding on to the death of Charles Fane. Like, it is what it is, you know, justice for Aurora. But man, I see why they got renewed for season 4. Somebody saw these last 2 episodes and was like, give them their money, pay them what they need. Pay increases, budget increase, yes, yes, yes. Woo! And that's gonna wrap up today's episode, y'all. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments in the comments box below, my Gilded family. Oh, quick announcement about the Gilded Age. So all of y'all that's been in my comments since the beginning talking about, girl, you need to watch season 1, you need to watch season 2. Fear no more. When next week's finale airs of season 3, episode 8 of the Gilded Age, and I do my final recap of the season, I will be going back and doing a review and recap of both season 1 and season 2. Still gonna be on Sundays, okay? I'm gonna keep the Gilded Age open for Sunday. We're gonna go back in time, okay? Now that I have the knowledge of season 3, I think this will be really fun, and I haven't done a recap like this before. Typically I binge previous seasons before the current season, but binging this season and kind of jumping right into its best season yet, and seeing all of the reactions online, I think it'll be a really interesting and unique opportunity to go back to the beginning and figure out how we got here. I'm very curious as to how what I know now will inform what I see from the previous seasons, but I think it'll be a blast. So if you're interested in knowing my thoughts or just re-divulging and, you know, pulling apart previous episodes and stuff like that, then you can stay here. You can do it with me because I will be going back to the first 2 seasons. Finishing up, wrapping up this video, if you got people that only want to listen to me, make sure you share the Spotify and the Apple Podcast link. You can also find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I talk about film and TV news and updates. I also post little reviews and things on there as well, so you can always scroll through and see if you see something of interest. But you can find me on TikTok at Kivanchi, where I do short form reviews on a bunch of different shows that I do not talk about on here. I also do preview reaction pics on there too for the Gilded Age if you are curious. So if you follow me on TikTok or if you find me on TikTok, just know I'm dropping a reaction pic to the finale on the Saturday before it airs. So August 9th. What's today? Yeah. August 9th. I will drop that ahead of the August 10th finale. Okay. And then as always, if you just want to find me in the streets, you can find me on Twitter at Kivanchi. And with that, I will catch y'all in the next episode.